Lifewise's Bullying and Ostracizing Problem, presented by the Secular Education Association. Lifewise Academy CEO Joel Penton said he doesn't hear real reports of children who attend Lifewise ostracizing others who don't attend. What exactly constitutes a real report? Let's check that claim against what's been documented by us and by the press. Lifewise states it does not condone bullying and promises a thorough investigation of any report. Then why are local programs amplifying bullying messages? See the Continental example. We'd like to know what their investigation concluded and what corrective steps, if any, followed besides quietly taking the post down. We won't dig further into Lifewise's curriculum here. If you want examples of how those lessons create in-group, out-group dynamics, watch our video, Good Kids Go to Church, What Lifewise Academy's Lesson Plans Really Teach. Today's focus is narrower, whether there are real reports of ostracizing and bullying. In August 2023, Freedom from Religion Foundation sent a letter to over 600 Ohio schools stating that non-attending students during release time often were not provided adequate substantive lessons. Separately, FFRF reported several complaints from families in different districts that non-attendees were given busy work or no work at all, and at least one complaint that a school assigned additional homework, seemingly as punishment for refusing to participate. Mr. Penton was aware. Lifewise Academy is represented by First Liberty, which publicly discussed that letter and later issued a press release on Lifewise's behalf. If reports vetted by constitutional lawyers aren't real, what is? Tell me again how he hasn't heard any reports of ostracization. Another report Penton firsthand heard came from our co-founder. In November 2024, during testimony before the Ohio Senate Education Committee, Zachary Parrish, with Penton present in the chamber, documented his own daughter's experience, being sent to study hall in second grade, being told by Lifewise classmates she was going to hell, and even being referred to as a Lifewise leftover by staff. Dismissing this as not real is indefensible. What about reports in the media? Journalists vet what they publish, right? Consider Demery Alonzo, an ESL tutor, who told both the AP and NBC that a Lifewise representative pressured a third grade Hindu student to join. Alonzo had to intervene, telling the Lifewise teacher it was inappropriate to pressure a child who believes in a different God, and that Lifewise wasn't for her. If that isn't othering, what is? Aaron Sogol told NPR affiliate WOSU, quote, "My 9-year-old's friend in Lifewise told him he was going to hell because he didn't believe in Jesus." That is the definition of ostracization. Is that not real enough for Mr. Penton? On a nationally broadcast NBC News segment, Sarah Myers described her child's experience, matching red Lifewise shirts that create an in-group versus out-group, and kids sent back with invitations to hand directly to classmates. And remember, Mr. Penton was interviewed in these very reports. They didn't slip past him. He's choosing to ignore them when he says he hasn't heard any real reports. One major piece Penton did not participate in was a deep dive by Uncloseted Media, later picked up by Miss Magazine. The reporter interviewed and vetted 3 parents about Lifewise's impact on LGBTQ plus students. Reported accounts include a daughter who was, quote, mercilessly bullied by Lifewise kids for looking like a lesbian who was going to burn in hell, a transgender son withdrawn from school after bullying, with staff fearing Lifewise students and staff would make it worse, and a queer mother who says her child's safety is compromised when students are released to be taught discriminatory messages about her family. The piece also cites public testimony in Westerville, Ohio. A mother says Lifewise peers repeatedly confronted her daughter about why she doesn't attend and pressed her on belief in God. If sworn testimony and vetted interviews aren't real reports, what are, Mr. Penton? One of those cases that Miss Magazine reported on started in our private group. A parent wrote, Quote, I'm here to pick up my transgender son. He called me crying. He can't handle the bullying and harassment from gloating kids today. The front desk receptionist was so concerned that Lifewise staff or students would say something that she moved him to the principal's office while he called. I hate it here. Secular Education Association has collected and verified dozens of additional testimonies from parents, teachers, and students about bullying and ostracization. One parent joined our private group after her kindergartner came home in tears from pressure to join Lifewise. Quote, they send home a permission slip every single day. Religion is personal, something her father and I will teach her, not strangers. She found us after her story went viral on TikTok, where commenters directed her to C for support. That viral TikTok drew in other parents facing the same exact thing. Some weren't dealing with Lifewise at all, but other RTRI programs with the same exact playbook. State mandates are fueling a rapid spread of these release time programs. One new member wrote, quote, my daughter comes home crying because all her friends leave campus for church. She begs to go just to be with them. We're not religious. She doesn't even want church. She wants her friends. It feels like a sneaky way to get kids like her to attend. Thank you for this group. I thought I was alone. How many more programs will keep dividing kids inside public schools this way? One teacher described the peer pressure and disruption when students returned from Lifewise. Quote, Lifewise arrived last year for third grade. Now those kids are in fourth and had their day of the year. The two leaving told classmates they get pop, pizza, and prizes. I kept redirecting. They left early for transportation and came back 10 minutes late. One student burst into my room, interrupting, asking where to go. The two who returned had bluey book bags for fourth graders. I said, put them in your lockers. Then the kicker, they handed out invites for a friend to join next week. The kids want to go because they want free stuff too. Now, that is not character education. It's classroom erosion, coercion. This is a real teacher report, and we hear many more like it. How exactly do you teach character while bald-faced lying about the reports you're aware of? Where's the honesty and integrity in that? If that's the classroom impact, here's the home impact, straight from a parent. Quote, my son came home upset because he's the only kid in his class who doesn't go to Lifewise. Kids who stayed back last year are going this year. Of course, Lifewise sent home a packet to sign him up. That went straight in the trash. We told him we don't agree with what Lifewise teaches and he can't go. They even went to Lifewise on the first day of school. Now I'm waiting to see what he'll do with the teacher during that time. He's a really good kid, and I'm hoping he gets to do something meaningful so it doesn't feel like a punishment. I hate Lifewise. Stories like this aren't confined to our private group. They're everywhere. On a local community page, one parent wrote, quote, when my son comes home from school crying because a Lifewise kid said that since we don't go to church, we're going to hell, that tells me everything I need to know about what they're teaching. On the same community page, another parent shared their child's experience. While Lifewise supporters echoed Joel's line that, quote, bullying happens and denied any link to Lifewise teachings, despite a direct pattern reported by families. Quote, my kid was bullied relentlessly by students who attend Lifewise. She cut her hair, an undercut. And when they came back from spring break, kids got in her face. Are you a boy? Are you trans? Is that why you cut your hair? Minimizing doesn't erase the pattern that families keep reporting. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop at words. When kids are taught that non-Christians are less than, rhetoric can turn into violence. A parent reports, quote, a Lifewise student punched my daughter in the face on the school bus and tried to cut her hair with scissors after my daughter said we don't go to church and aren't Christian. I wasn't informed by the bus driver. The driver is also a bus driver for a Lifewise program. That's not just bullying happens. That is full-on violence and a supervision failure. Kids are being cornered, left to defend themselves against a non-stop barrage of bullying and othering. One parent put it this way, quote, my then third grade son was told he's going to hell because he doesn't go to church, Lifewise. He shot back that at least he wouldn't have to hear about how great the Chick-fil-A chicken is because it isn't. Later, when the same kid bragged about pizza and ice cream, my son said it tasted like hate and he didn't like hate pizza. I'd love to take credit, but those words came from his older sister. When young children are constantly bullied by peers, they eventually push back. This kind of othering breeds a toxic dynamic, forcing kids to match hostility and widening the divide. Quote, a kid told my daughter she couldn't have two moms because his church says it's wrong. She proceeded to inform him that his religion was like Santa, made up to make people behave. These are not theoretical scenarios. C receives reports like this every week. Here's a new one. Quote, I am new to this group. I have a student in Ohio. The Lifewise bus picks up students here on Wednesdays, but not until later in the morning. Just now, as we were in the drop-off line, my daughter, who was mercilessly bullied by the Lifewise kids for, quote, looking like a lesbian who's going to burn in hell, and quote, all trans gay lesbians deserve to die, and quote, they, them like an animal, spotted two Lifewise staff entering the building. She said that they come in when the kids are there, they have freedom to move throughout the building, and that they gather kids up well before the scheduled time to depart. They apparently gather in the cafeteria, greatly extending the time out of class and allowing the Lifewise staff to essentially be school volunteers. I don't know what the rules are exactly, but I figured I'd share this information because you do. Their indoctrination is hateful, and those kids are a product of it. My baby suffers daily. It's awful. Here's another parent's experience shared with C. Quote, would love to share my experience. I came back to my hometown in hopes to have my girls go to the same school I went to growing up. This school has religious stuff hanging up in the cafeteria. Did when I was there and does now. I expect that much and was fine with it. Whatever, to each their own. Now that my girls go, my youngest was the only child to not attend Lifewise and was very much made the outcast because of it. Kids would say, it's sad you don't go to Lifewise. If you did, we could play together and be friends. But my mom says we can't be friends. On top of that, my eldest gets picked on a ton for being Buddhist and told she is going to hell. She will suffer and that God hates her. They have created a cool kids club setting in which all who don't attend are outcasts and made to feel as such. I feel as if Lifewise runs my old alma mater. Let's leave the personal beliefs personal. That's why they are not called public beliefs. This pressure shows up beyond the home. Aunts, uncles, and grandparents are watching it play out too. Quote, my niece attends a district where they have Lifewise, and she was pressured by her friends to sign up. You should come. Why don't you go? Not as much bullying as they wanted their friend to join, but still left my niece feeling like she was missing out on something, quote, fun. What starts as FOMO can become harassment, especially for queer kids. Quote, yep, dealt with things like this, and with my child who is a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, Bible thrown at her, etc. Needless to say, I'm pulling her from my hometown and public schools. Just another sad situation I have to protect my baby from because it starts at home. Parents find themselves defending their kids' experiences while Lifeway supporters try to discredit them. One parent wrote, quote, the problem is what gets said to our kids. My child came home in tears multiple times last year because of comments made to her about how she needed to accept Jesus by kids returning from Lifewise. My eldest got told that she was going to hell more than once last year, and in 5th grade was told, quote, Jews aren't people. My rising first grader is asking to move to a Jewish school because she doesn't feel safe to be herself at West. If it was as simple as no one saying a word, we wouldn't constantly be talking about if we need to move for the kids' safety and mental well-being. This isn't a difference of opinion. It's a student safety issue, and districts must act. Just like the last example from a local community group, other parents jumped in to defend families being attacked by Lifeway supporters. One wrote, quote, I am so sorry that BV is continuing to let kids bully each other like this. My daughter was told she was going to hell because she got her hair cut. Came home crying over why we hadn't told her that God hated, quote, people like her. Staff and other students stood by and said nothing. And educators are seeing the fallout firsthand. A teacher reports, quote, "We are not permitted to teach anything new during this time. Some students that have specials during this time miss them every week. Also, I had a student come back from Lifewise last year to tell a girl that identified as gay that she was going to hell and he could not be friends with her because he did not want to go to hell. He also asked what a prostitute was. This was after he had his feet washed at Lifewise. As the parent of a gay son, I was livid. He also came back with invitations to pass out to the class. I told him no, but then was told by the principal that he was permitted to pass them out. And for families and religious minorities, the pressure is relentless. The following is a paraphrased account from a Jewish parent. Non-material details were adjusted for privacy. Quote, "My Jewish third grader is one of a handful who opt out while most classmates attend Lifewise. On Thursdays, he sits in a no new instruction study hall doing math or iPad work while others get bussed out for what he calls a weekly field trip with candy and cookies. At home, we fight because, in his words, I'm, quote, keeping him from going. Why can't I just believe in Jesus like the others for the candy and cookies? We moved here for jobs and picked public schools for diversity and academics, avoiding local Christian schools on purpose. We didn't anticipate the peer pressure to conform to Christianity in a public school due to RTRI or Lifewise. Nearby districts also run RTRI, so there's no real local alternative. The program began as a pilot in first grade and keeps expanding. We like our jobs and community, but we're now considering leaving Ohio, possibly for Michigan, because RTRI and other state policies are making our child an outsider." Now, a paraphrased parent's blow by blow of how this starts on a Thursday and unravels a friend group by Monday. On Thursday, quote, "My daughter gets in the car and says, 'Mom, I think I lost all my friends.' I ask why, and she says, 'Because I said a word, sin.' She believes that just saying the word means she's going to hell. We're not religious, so I explain. In many traditions, sin refers to actions, not the word itself, and she is not going to hell. She calms down, we move on. On Friday, she gets in the car sobbing. 'I have no friends.' Kids who attended Lifewise told others not to be friends with her because she's, quote, a sinner who's, quote, going to hell. Multiple children repeat it. I messaged her teacher and the parent of a child who started it, also in Lifewise. The child admits telling my daughter she could go to hell for saying a cuss word at recess. I tell the child, it is not your job to judge. If there's a problem, tell a teacher. Then that parent stops responding. On Monday, I finally get a school response. The teacher calls. All students involved and my daughter will meet with the counselor. It won't happen again. Monday after school, my daughter reports a different Lifewise child keeps urging her to ask Jesus to be her friend. Then says, "Well, I warned you." Another child tells her he's disappointed in her. I document it and message the teacher again. This is how it starts on a Thursday and unravels a friend group by Monday. The child ends up isolated, not over academics or behavior, but over a religious boundary that does not belong in public schools. By the next week, the tension hardened into a new normal. The parent continues. Weeks later, there's still tension. My child isn't in the middle of it now, but last week kids were arguing about who Jesus's real father is. The same children who targeted her are still unkind. No overt religion talk anymore, just meanness. One of them even got into a physical altercation on Monday. My daughter loves school, but she doesn't want to go when kids are this mean. These were all friends. On Wednesday, they were hanging out together. By Thursday, which is Lifewise Day, everything had changed. I didn't connect it until my daughter said, "They're learning this in Lifewise." One child told her the class said to ask Jesus to be your friend and to get others to do the same. They also kept telling her to ask Jesus for forgiveness because she'd cussed at recess. She brushed it off. Okay, sorry. And they said that that wasn't good enough. Then they tried to smear her, said she was racist for not being friends with a Muslim classmate. She replied, I'm not friends with him because he's a jerk, not because of his religion. They were spreading rumors to make her look like the bad one. This is 1 week of social fallout. Friends groups fractured, pressured to conform, and a child who no longer wants to go to school that she used to love. From family rifts to kids questioning whether their parents will go to hell, the spillover doesn't stop at school. It fractures homes. Here's one parent's account. Quote, we don't teach religion at home. Our kids can decide as they get older. After Lifewise started, my son went from longtime friends to an outcast for not being in the group. His cousin began telling him he'd go to hell and that he should be in Lifewise, while drilling my daughter about church, God, and needing Sunday school, trying to make her bring it to me. Family gatherings turned into fights. Our niece went from a kid who loved church to a walking Bible overnight. Our nephews didn't care about church, but jumped on boards once they heard about class credits for attending. My son tried to shrug it off, but my 5-year-old came home asking if I was a liar about Santa and if God would send me to hell for lying. The next day, she got off the bus sobbing. Someone told her her dad and I were going to hell because we aren't married. She screamed. She didn't want to be here anymore because she didn't want me to go to hell. That was the last straw. How dare anyone, and how dare the districts allow it? We moved to a district Lifewise hasn't reached. The difference is night and day. Our kids come home smiling again. I'm not a confident public speaker, but I'll stand up if I have to. Keep fighting. Make no mistake, this isn't new. From the very start of Lifewise Academy, families have reported pressure, bullying, and ostracization. Van Wert, Ohio, one of the very first programs, shows that it's been present there since day one. Quote, in 2019 to 2020, my son was a third grader at Van Wert. We opted him out of Lifewise, despite the school highly suggesting it at back to school night. He and one girl were the only two not attending. While the class went to Lifewise, they had to sit with a teacher doing math problems. And when the class returned, those kids ate Lifewise snacks in front of them. It felt like punishment for not going. When I objected, the school basically said, then sign him up. I refused and said I'd pick him up during that block. They threatened it would count against attendance. I didn't budge, and the school finally agreed. During Lifewise time, the two opt-outs could choose an activity and it would be treated as free time, not class time. So when Mr. Penton says he hasn't heard any real reports, understand why that strains belief. We and parents have documented accounts like this going back 5 years to the program's earliest days. Kids deserve a school day without religious sorting. No gold stars for believers and no penalties for opting out. What we've shown tonight aren't anecdotes. They're documented reports from teachers, parents, students, and journalists. So when someone says that there are no real reports, compare that claim to the facts. This is not character education. It's classroom erosion and religious coercion. If your family is experiencing pressure, exclusion, or bullying tied to release time programs, document it, report it to your district, and share it with C so that these patterns are visible and action is possible. Are you ready to get involved? Scan the QR on the screen to join our email list or go to seculareducationassociation.org and hit subscribe. For questions or media requests, email contact@seculareducationassociation.org. Find us on Facebook by searching Secular Education Association. Follow the public page and request the private support group. On YouTube, search Secular Education Association and watch Good Kids Go to Church, then share it. And if you have a story or evidence, email us or use the links in the video description. Add your voice, share your story. Let's protect every child's school day together.